Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Appreciate you guys. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. And also subscribe on the WQAM YouTube page. 104.3 WQAM is the handle there. You guys can watch Tobin and Leroy every single weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So today, Mike McDaniel spoke at the podium. A lot of fallout, a lot of fallout from the Tua Tagovailoa player meetings. It legitimately, I think you guys all know this because I'm sure you're on social media and you're in the YouTube algorithm, so you see all the clips of coverage. But I had at the studio today, ESPN on. It was literally the top story all day long. And here's the thing about it: two things speak to this. One, how much Tua gets a reaction to stuff, and two, just how much these comments put a spotlight on a really bad situation with the Miami Dolphins and why. For Tua to go out there and feel the need to share what he did was just a big misstep. And I think today you heard it in Mike McDaniel's press conference because, I mean, essentially these two have been a little snippy with each other, like little seedlings under everything. But Mike McDaniel's, I mean, that's Tua's biggest ally. I mean, Tua has the extension that he has because of Mike McDaniel. His career is at where he's because of Mike McDaniel. And I think Mike McDaniel knew that he had to call out this behavior because when the players got to the podium today, specifically the offensive linemen, I mean, it was their silence was deafening on the entire Tua Tagovailoa situation. And so, this thing has gotten far and wide. You've seen a lot of players come to call out to a couple have defended, but Teddy Bruschi said this was, more of a call for help to Mike McDaniel or a call out of Mike McDaniel. I think Dan Orlovsky, said good for Tua, he's in the bag for quarterbacks. But most of the players, found it really, really troubling. Channing Crowder had a really great point today on the Hogman Crowder Solana show after us, former Dolphins linebacker. And you guys can go look up the quotes, but Channing was driving home and he was discussing. He's like, this is, he goes, 80% of the life of an NFL football player is essentially meetings, and you want to gather us and seem like you're leading with more meetings, and because somebody doesn't get to your precious meeting, and that has to be out in the fold to make it feels like it's getting some stink off of you. He would be surprised if people didn't go up to Tua in the locker room about that. And based on Jordan Brooks, Aaron Brewer, even Patrick Paul, who's a pup in the behemoth of a man, but a pup in this league, all were united in, hey, we're not saying anything about this because we're going to make the point this should be in-house to embarrass Tua, right? And Mike McDaniel made the point today where he was asked about this, and he said, look, I didn't really hear the comments when I reacted to this yesterday, and now that I've heard it, he said, none of the reactions surprised me, but I think regardless of the intent of what was on Tua's mind after the loss, as the franchise quarterback, that's not the forum to displace it. I think he knows that now. I honestly believe there's no ill intent. What we're talking about is a misguided representation of player orchestrated film sessions, which I think is the thing that Mike McDaniel's most pissed about, because he made it clear yesterday, even in the comments, like, hey, everybody has been going to the meetings. There haven't been tardiness issues. This was a whole thing with the Dolphins last year. And when Tua says the thing that he says, and this was my point yesterday, people who are calling for context, what about? First of all, his answer wasn't in context of the question. He unsolicited went into a direction that had nothing to do with what he was asked. He was asked about keeping everybody together and not having a woe is me mentality, and this had to be brought out for no reason whatsoever. And I think for Mike McDaniel, it'd be like, well, if people are just reading that, they're thinking, oh, there's still the issues that are there last year, which is, by the way, a bad look on me, which I don't know if that's what Tua is trying to do. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't think that it is, but I don't think he realized the gravity of it. And that's the problem, is that, when you live in this, I don't pay attention to the noise world. None of this stuff matters to me. And there's part of me that understands the element of that with Tua because everything that he says is a thing. I get it. And I don't really understand, for a guy who's not really a person who says controversial things. He'll say surprisingly revelatory things. But he's one of those guys, he's one of these one-name athletes that everybody has an opinion on and everybody wants to talk about. And because of that, I feel like should have a better understanding of the gravity that his words carry. And even in a frustrating situation, I think the coach feels a little bit like you not only put the team in a bad light, you put me in a bad light, you put your teammates in a bad light. And for what? Like, what did you feel like the benefit of that was? Like, what I do know is that he is directly communicating with a lot of guys starting last night. And that's what teammates do. You live and you learn. But ultimately, I look at it like everybody else. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Accountability in our team's performance always lies squarely on my shoulders. So we know that as well. But the focus should be on to beat the Cleveland Browns and fix what needs to get fixed and go after our next opponent. And then he was asked by Will Manso, do you feel like this is showing a deeper problem? Or do you feel like Tua misspoke? He says, no, I'm not worried when it's a misrepresentation. I don't want to speak for Tua. He'll obviously get asked about it and be very candid. But ultimately, no, I wasn't worried about the result. I wasn't worried about the result of the game being determined by extra outside or all the things scheduled by film sessions with players. Again, making sure that this is nothing extra. This is film. It's not even, he didn't even want to describe it as meetings. He kept calling it film sessions with players, which is what, these side meetings that are going on. But yeah, when you see the quotes that come out from the rest of the players about this, it definitely seems like it struck a nerve. Safe to say Wednesday's press conference from Tua is going to be a doozy. And they're going to need a win. Cause like, look, if this thing, like when you're lineman, I said like, man, it feels like Tua is about to get Willie Beemaned on social media against Cleveland. Somebody did make the point, multiple people actually, like that they made a funny joke that Jonas Savaianai is basically doing that every week, which is true. Tua is getting, the offensive line doesn't probably need to unintentionally, get Tua in danger. They do a good job of that on their own. But you get my point, is like these are, whether they're sucky or not, these are the guys in charge of protecting you for the entire game. And whatever, whatever their talents or lack of talent may be, you still have those guys putting their bodies on the line for you. And it doesn't feel like this stuff went over great at all. It's a problem. And, last week we're a week removed from Jalen Phillips saying that this team is not a dumpster fire. And dude, this isn't a dumpster fire. This is a landfill fire. This is the entire junkyard set on fire, ablaze, air pollution, stink, plume over the city. That's what's going on right now. And yes, it is exasperated. It is highlighted by the fact that the Dolphins are 1-5. That's the point. That's when you need to know when the time is to put this stuff out into the ether. And that was not yesterday. Emotional, I get it. You're frustrated that you lost. Maybe you're frustrated with your defense for blowing it again. After back-to-back weeks, you lead go-ahead drives and they're not able to sustain it. Okay, fine. Whatever, dude. There were 2 weeks where you weren't able to go get it done after they got stops for you. This team has been rancid all over the place. And legitimately, everything that anybody projected to be an issue with the Dolphins has been that and more this season, whether it be secondary issues, O-line issues, chemistry issues, leadership issues, culture issues. All of those things have been shined in a really, really bright light. And, it just feels very much like the ship is sinking. The rats are trying to desert the ship. Mike McDaniel, who, again, is like Tua's number one advocate, is now seemingly getting annoyed with him. His offensive line is getting annoyed with him. And the thing that was interesting yesterday, I heard a lot of the reaction, which I don't know a lot. A lot of people were asked similar questions to Tua, and they were all like, hey, we're in this together. We're going to handle this. Jalen Waddle's asked about this. Bradley Chubb was asked about this. We're in this together. We trust the captains, all that type of stuff. And whether you want to hear this stuff or not, but what they know is this is not stuff. The dirty laundry is not to be out there. And after a day where the entire franchise is just getting mocked by the national media or chastised by the national media, all because the quarterback couldn't stay out of his feelings, I hope that he realizes the weight of his situation. And I'm sure there's going to be some kind of an apologetic tone to his press conference on Wednesday. But I'll tell you one thing. I don't want to hear about Tua being taken out of context. I don't want to hear one thing about this being the media's fault. This is on you, dude. I mean, it is. You know, you can sit here and you can play the ignorant card all you want. You've been a professional athlete for more than half a decade. You've been a star athlete for nearly a decade. You know that people follow what you say and that when you say things, they do get a buzz. I don't give one rat's ass about what you try and portray to anybody. That's a bunch of bull bleep. So I am curious to see what he has to say about it. Maybe he's defiant about it. I doubt it because Mike McDaniel already sounds like he's been, trying to get some forgiveness all around. And then, as far as Mike's job is concerned, we lost the first coach today. Brian Callahan was fired after, his star defensive lineman this week came out and he was like, this was the worst week of practice ever. So Brian Callahan has gone. So Mike McDaniel was not the first coach fired. So he's got that going for him. But even, he was asked today about Stephen Ross and like he's getting to get asked about that every week. Hey, what are your questions about? What's your conversation with Stephen Ross like? The fact that that's becoming a question every week for Mike McDaniel knows that the seat is piping hot. He doesn't need Tua to be even adding more coals to the furnace to make that seat even hotter. And that's exactly what he did. You had Stephen A. Smith calling for his job today. You had plenty of pundits. Rex Ryan, who, of course, is salivating at the idea of getting another job down here. And so Tua did nobody any favors with what he did. And people may, even to his biggest advocates, which I think that I, would say I was, like, I really liked Tua. I was happy that Tua pulled through some early adversity in his career to get an extension. And it sucks that he's dealt with all the injury issues that he has had, but he's had a lousy season production-wise. And then not only that, he has been very, very sensitive, whether it be about his turnovers or his critics or his haters or the losses. And he hasn't handled it well. He's honestly handled it in more immature ways than he did even in his rookie and sophomore year when there was real pressure on his career. Would his NFL career continue? Guys actively looking to replace him. Right now, the thing that's annoying about it is Tua seems more insecure than ever when he's got the most security on the team. And that's something that's disappointing as somebody who's kind of followed the whole journey. And, hopefully he can find a way out of this. But yeah, man, the silence from the O-lineman and the tone of Mike McDaniel, this doesn't feel like something that is going to be easily forgiven.